What is lure fishing? Often referred to as the Gulf of Water, lure fishing is a method of fishing. The word lure in English means temptation. This fishing method originated in Europe and America, then developed in Japan, and officially entered United States in 1990. Why is it called temptation fishing? There's a story behind it. A long time ago, a European fisherman was eating when he accidentally dropped a steel spoon into a lake. Suddenly, many fish came over to bite the spoon. He was surprised. There was no bait on the spoon and no scent of bait. Why would the fish attack the spoon and bite it? So he was inspired to turn the spoon into a fishing lure, attaching hooks to catch these fish. The results were excellent, and this was the prototype of lure fishing. But why would fish attack the spoon? There are two reasons. First, when the metal spoon fell into the water and drifted, it glittered like the scales of a small fish reflecting light. The fish mistakenly thought it was the small fish they wanted to eat, so they bit it, thinking it was food. The second reason is that aggressive fish species generally have a sense of territory. When some fish enter their territory, they become hostile, either opening their mouths to intimidate or directly attacking and biting. This explains why a spoon can catch fish. Lure fishing can also be called biomimicry fishing or deception fishing. It uses lures to mimic the food or prey of fish, thereby catching them. If traditional bait fishing lures fish with bait to see them, then lure fishing deceives fish by imitating their prey in color, shape, swimming motion, and even sound. Similar to how in the movie The United States Feast, tofu was used to mimic the taste of meat. If you catch a fish using deception, wouldn't that give you a great sense of accomplishment? Often, people are willing to push their limits, making the impossible possible. This is innovation. This is progress. So, let's lure some fish together. Why has lure fishing fascinated countless people? Lure fishing is currently the fastest growing segment in the fishing sport and has the highest proportion of female players. Let me give you a detailed introduction to the charm of this sport. At the end of this video, I will reveal a little-known secret about the lure fishing community. So, let's get started. First, the visual impact. This is what has drawn many people into the sport, even those who have never fished before. The stylish casting posture, dazzling equipment, and trendy clothing all provide strong visual stimulation. When you see someone in a video doing lure fishing and you admire them, it's natural for you to want to become that admired person too. Second, comparing lure fishing with Taiwanese-style fishing, Taiwan fishing. In China, Taiwanese-style fishing remains the most popular method. The process involves various steps like setting up the fishing line, hook, float, and other accessories, which can be quite complex, a process known as making fishing tools. Additionally, you need to prepare the right bait, adjust the float to the correct position, and find the right water depth, among many other things. These terms alone can take a long time to learn, let alone mastering each. Because of this complexity, many potential anglers are discouraged from taking up Taiwanese-style fishing. On the other hand, lure fishing requires much less knowledge, equipment, and understanding. The techniques are simple, and it's very easy for beginners to find enjoyment. To put it simply, it's easy to start, and it's easy to build confidence. Many beginners catch fish on their first lure fishing trip and feel a strong sense of accomplishment. Third, the equipment differences. Taiwanese-style fishing requires a wide range of equipment: rods, lines, hooks, fishing tables, chairs, boxes, various attractants, and so on. Explaining it all could take hours. Not only are there many types of equipment, but they are also generally bulky, which means many Taiwanese-style anglers fill up their car trunks and back seats when going fishing. In contrast, with lure fishing, all you usually need is a single rod and a small waist pack, which can easily fit into a small spot in your car trunk. I always say that Taiwanese-style fishing is like moving house, while lure fishing is like taking a stroll. The ease and simplicity of lure fishing are unmatched by any other fishing method. Fourth, the active nature of lure fishing. Unlike other fishing methods, which can be relatively dull, lure fishing is all about movement, both during the casting process and the fight after a fish bites. It's called fishing sport, and lure fishing truly deserves that title. Lure fishing is dynamic, and the engagement and interaction throughout the process are incredibly strong. Lure fishing involves actively searching for fish, exploring fishing spots, and scanning for fish schools, which often leads to hiking, crossing streams, and other adventurous activities. Unlike Taiwanese-style fishing, where changing spots can be challenging, lure fishing allows you to roam with your rod and small pack through forests and streams, appealing strongly to the curiosity and adventurous spirit of young people, much like how we were drawn to rollerblading or parkour back in the day. No one wants to be left behind by the times. Fifth, the experience and feelings. As mentioned earlier, lure fishing is convenient. I often keep 2 rods in my trunk, ready to cast a line whenever I see a suitable spot. The freedom and spontaneity of simply grabbing your gear and heading out for a quick fishing session are incredibly satisfying. You can fish in scenic mountain streams, canyons, and waterfalls, enjoying the beauty around you, with surprises at every turn. Sixth, environmental concerns. Traditional Taiwanese-style fishing requires a lot of additives, attractants, and other substances that can cause irreversible damage to the environment and water resources. In contrast, lure fishing uses lures made of wood, rubber, metal, and other materials, which are usually reusable. This aspect has garnered strong support from environmentally conscious fishing enthusiasts. Finally, let's talk about the lure fishing community. While I've talked about how lure fishing is simple and easy to start, there's one downside: it's expensive. Lure fishing equipment tends to be more expensive than gear for other fishing methods, which creates a higher barrier to entry. A good set of lure fishing equipment can easily cost thousands or even tens of thousands. But is this a disadvantage? Why do so many people still join this community? While I've talked about how lure fishing is simple and easy to start, there's one downside: it's expensive. Lure fishing equipment tends to be more expensive than gear for other fishing methods, which creates a higher barrier to entry. A good set of lure fishing equipment can easily cost thousands or even tens of thousands. But is this a disadvantage? Why do so many people still join this community? The cost barrier has become a status symbol for many lure fishing enthusiasts, who are often people with relatively high incomes. You'll find that many socialites who used to play golf have now taken up lure fishing. In an instant, lure fishing has become wildly popular. Often dubbed the golf on water, lure fishing offers style, excitement, and thrill, along with opportunities to connect with like-minded individuals. So, are you tempted to join the world of lure fishing? In the previous video, we talked about the charm of lure fishing. In this one, let's discuss whether you should dive into lure fishing or not. Don't rush. Watch this video first before making your decision. When I first got into lure fishing, I watched videos of anglers from Europe, America, and Japan. Those cool moves, lightweight gear, and impressive catches immediately caught my attention. So, without much thought, I went ahead and bought some gear and started fishing. Not only did I catch no fish, but I also lost quite a bit of money. I won't complain here, and there's no one to comfort me anyway. However, based on the mistakes I made, I can give you a good summary so that you can avoid detours and fully enjoy the fun of lure fishing. I wish someone had made such content when I was getting into this hobby. So, congratulations to everyone watching this who's thinking about getting into lure fishing. The pitfalls I encountered, you can perfectly avoid. Now let's get into the practical tips. This is pure, high-quality information without any fluff. First, don't be tempted by those videos showcasing godlike catches of giant fish. Stay calm. Those are likely the result of the angler visiting countless fishing spots over many days to encounter such fish. If catching such fish were easy, our rivers and lakes would be empty by now. Some people say that even beginner lure anglers abroad catch lots of fish. Remember, the key thing about lure fishing is resources. Resources are paramount. In Europe and America, lure fishing has been popular for a long time, and people there have a strong catch and release and environmental conservation mindset. For example, they release yellow bass under 30 pounds and pike under 10 pounds back into the wild after catching them. So they have more fish, bigger fish, and fewer people. That's an inherent advantage. Don't blindly think that just because you're lure fishing, you'll catch a lot of fish, or very big fish. Additionally, lure fishing doesn't work for every type of fish. You should note that it's best suited for species like bass, mandarin fish, catfish, freshwater perch, and aggressive saltwater fish like grouper, mackerel, and tuna. First, research whether you have such species and suitable fishing spots around you before deciding to get into lure fishing. Secondly, there's a saying: having a car, some money, and a bit of impulsiveness are essential for lure fishing. Although this isn't entirely accurate, having a car certainly makes things more convenient. Time is also crucial for lure fishing, as it requires a higher frequency of trips to achieve good results. Timing is everything in lure fishing. The best times to catch fish are during their feeding periods, like early morning or late afternoon. While this isn't too bad, you can head out after work around 5 p.m. If you want to catch big fish like the ones in those videos, you'll likely need to make time for frequent trips. Regarding money, lure fishing isn't something you can get into with just $100 or $200 if you want to achieve the results you envision. Those who entice you to get into lure fishing won't tell you that their rods alone cost $700 to $800, and their reels another $800 to $900. A single high-quality lure can easily cost over $100, and lures are consumables. Losing 1 or 2 lures per trip is normal, but sometimes you might lose 7 or 8, or even a dozen or more in a day. For professionals, it's their job. They're selling products. Plus, lure fishing gear tends to be more expensive compared to other types of fishing gear, so be prepared financially. Wealthy folks can ignore this point. Third, family comes first. During holidays or days off, prioritize your family. Don't neglect your home responsibilities for the sake of fishing. Fishing takes a lot of time, especially in the early morning or late afternoon, so handle it well. Lastly, there's a golden rule in lure fishing. Out of 10 trips, 9 will yield nothing. Be prepared for the possibility that you might fish all day without catching anything, not even a feather. And it's not just one day, it could happen frequently. So, you need to have a strong mindset and firm determination. Otherwise, you might end up seeing a psychologist. If you're okay with all of the above, then congratulations. You're ready to dive into lure fishing. 5 apps every fishing enthusiast should have installed. Did you know? The apps I'm going to introduce today are the ones I've used and compared over many years of fishing, and I've carefully selected the most useful ones. Make sure to hit like and save this post quickly. 1. FishBrain. FishBrain is a popular app for fishing enthusiasts. This app serves as a hub connecting a community of over 15 million anglers, providing up-to-date information on the best fishing spots, as well as recommendations on gear and techniques. Additionally, FishBrain allows you to keep your fishing trips private with its security features while still engaging with the community. This app is available for both iPhone and Android. 2. FishAngler. FishAngler is an app that provides accurate and up-to-date information on fishing activities, including weather, fish habits, and bait and gear suggestions. This app also provides detailed information on nearby parking spots and docks. FishAngler functions as a digital logbook, allowing you to record and share your fishing trips and achievements. You can also connect with other users to organize group fishing trips. 3. Fishing and Hunting Solunar Time. Fishing and Hunting Solunar Time is an app based on the solunar theory, which suggests that animal behavior is influenced by the phases of the moon and its position in the sky. This app helps you determine the most active fishing times of the day based on your GPS location. You can save the best fishing spots and times and check future schedules to optimize your fishing trips. 4. Fishing Knots. Fishing Knots is an app that provides detailed instructions on how to tie various essential knots for fishing. This app contains a database of nearly all the knots you could need, from the Fisherman's 8 to the Centauri knot, with step-by-step guides and illustrations. Besides fishing knots, the app also introduces other useful knots, such as those for tying down your boat or securing gear when out on the water. 5. Fish Track. Fish Track is an app specifically designed for saltwater anglers, helping you stay safe while at sea. This app provides information on the best fishing spots, weather and tide conditions, water quality and temperature, as well as safety features like offline map storage for use when out of network range. With the support of these apps, your phone will no longer be a source of distraction, but instead become an indispensable tool, making your fishing trips more effective and safer. Does a spinning reel not get tangled? If you don't spool the line correctly, it can still get tangled. So how should you spool a spinning reel? The key to spooling lies in two factors: the tension and the appropriate amount of line. Using a line winder is a good option, but it's not used very often, and a good one can be expensive, so many anglers don't buy it. Below, I'll teach you a method to spool the line effectively without a line winder. First, you need a beautiful girl and a damp towel. She needs to find a chopstick or a screwdriver. Could you insert it through the hole in the middle of the line spool to fix it in place and get ready to spool? Next, we need to attach the reel to the rod. Be sure to note this: the line end must be threaded through the guides first. Then, open the bail on the spinning reel and secure the line end to the spool. This ensures that the line spools tightly. If you're using a bait casting reel, it's best to open the side cover and remove the spool. After threading the line through the guides, thread it through the line guide, and then through the side cover, secure it to the spool, then put it back in place. Some bait casting reels have holes in the spool, so you can tie the line directly through the holes without removing the spool. Next, let's talk about how to tie the line onto the spool. First, tie a simple overhand knot at the end of the line and cut off the excess. Then, fold the main line over and tie another overhand knot at the folded section. You can loop it a few more times before tightening it to make it more secure. This will create a loop that you can place around the middle of the spool and tighten. Many spools are slippery, so when you pull the main line, it might still slip. Therefore, you need to take an additional step. Make a loop behind the knot, twist it once, and tighten it around the spool. Repeat this several times until the line is secure. Generally, wrapping the spool 4 to 5 times will be strong enough. Try to keep the wrap centered on the spool and not overlapping, so the final spooled line will be neat. This method will solve the problem perfectly. Whether you're using a spinning reel or a bait casting reel, often the line will end up higher on both sides and lower in the middle. This method will solve the problem perfectly. Once the knot is secure, you can close the spool, tighten the drag, and start spooling the line. Pay attention to this key point. While spooling, the girl should hold the line spool with one hand and use the damp towel to lightly grip the line with the other hand, creating continuous tension throughout the process. As for the amount of line, on a spinning reel, spool it until it's 90% full, just below the slanted edge of the spool lip. Don't spool to the flat edge and definitely not beyond it. During use, the line will absorb water and expand, increasing in volume inside the spool. If it expands to the slanted edge, it can easily cause tangles. For a bait casting reel, spool it until it's about 80% full, leaving about 1 to 2 millimeters of space. Once the spooling is complete, you need to secure the line end. On the side of a spinning reel spool, there's usually a small triangular or trapezoidal plastic clip. You can secure the line by clipping it there. If there's no clip, or if you're using a bait casting reel, you can secure the line inside with adhesive tape. Just peel it off when you need to use it. Make sure to use specialized tape, otherwise it can be troublesome if the adhesive gets on the line. Okay, the main line is spooled. Next time, we'll talk about what leader line is and how to use it. Super detailed leader line, knotting method. After watching this, you'll definitely learn it. There are many ways to tie a leader line. Which one should we choose? The three most important criteria for judging the performance of a leader line knot. 1. Knot tensile strength. 2. Passability. 3. Abrasion resistance. After numerous tests by lure anglers, the comprehensive performance of this seasonal knot is excellent, and it's a knotting method you must learn for lure fishing. Although the difficulty of getting started is high, as long as you follow my method, even beginners can complete it without any mistakes. Let's move on to the practical operation. First, we take the rubber band that needs to be tied with the leader line. The rubber band should be about 30 centimeters long, then fold it in half. After folding it, loop it over your thumb and index finger, keeping about a 10-centimeter distance between your thumb and index finger. Then wrap the remaining part around your little finger. At this point, wrap it a few more times. Wrap it tightly so that it won't loosen while weaving. After wrapping, press the arrow with your ring finger and little finger. This way, our PE line forms a triangle. Then take our leader line. Okay, the leader line. The leader line is pressed by this PE line. Note that the leader line is pressed down. Press it down and then pinch the crossing part with your thumb and index finger. Next, we use the PE line on the thumb side to pull it from below the leader line. Pay attention to pulling it to the pinched part. Then pull it back from above the leader line, again to the pinched part. After pulling, the PE line on the index finger side pulls over from below the leader line to the pinched part. Then pull it back from above the leader line. Okay, this way, one set of this braid knot is completed. After completing it, we need to bite the leader line's end and tighten the knot. To make it clear, I won't bite it, but we'll use pliers instead. Now bite the leader line end and tighten the knot. Okay, tighten it, tighten it. Tighten it a bit more. Good. Okay, after tightening it, we tie another round. Still wrap from below, then wrap back from above. Then the index finger wraps from below, then back again. This way, another set of braid knots is completed. We need to tie 7 sets of braid knots in total. We've completed 2 sets now. Let's continue with 5 more sets. Now, 7 braid knots are completed. Next, we need to release the line from the little finger. Before releasing, look at the knot in our hands. It should be in the shape of a cross. Note that during the release process, make sure the cross's direction does not change. Okay, this one is the PE main line, and this one is the PE line end. Next, we wrap the main line and the leader line's end together to make them into one line. Then, start tying the half-hitch knot. While tying the half-hitch knot, first make a loop on these 2 lines. Note that the loop's end should be pressed above the main line, and the curve of the loop should be facing forward. After setting the loop, put your hand through it, pull out the line end from inside, and bite the line end to tighten the knot. After tightening it, tie a reverse half-hitch knot. The method is the same. Remember to press it on the line and make sure the curve faces backward. Then pull the line end out from the loop again and tighten it by biting. Okay, this way, one forward and one reverse half-hitch knot form one set. We need to tie 4 sets. Now that the self-made half-hitch knots are done, we proceed to tighten the knot. When tightening, make sure to wear gloves. Otherwise, it's easy to cut your hands. Tighten the line end and the knot. Don't use too much force. At this point, you'll see that the braid knot part is already fused with the leader line. Next, we cut off the leader line end. When cutting the line end, note that you should cut it right from the root. After cutting off the line end, tie 2 more sets of forward and reverse half-hitch knots with the line end. The method is the same. After finishing the last 2 half-hitch knots, cut off the final line end. When cutting, leave about 1 millimeter. Use the root of a lighter's flame, the blue part, to gently burn it, and then pinch it. This way, the PE line end won't come loose. If using a wind-proof lighter, also gently touch the flame's root to the end. Don't burn the main line. Okay, now the leader line knot is finished. At this time, you'll notice that the fluorocarbon line isn't tied in a knot. It's entirely fixed by the friction of the wrapped PE line. Not only does it not lose tensile strength, but the knot size is also very small, which is very good for passability in the guide rings. So, did you learn it? In the previous video, we talked about how to tie the leader line. In this video, we'll discuss how long the leader line should be. The recommended length of the leader line is slightly shorter than the distance from the reel to the rod tip. This has 2 advantages. First, the leader knot won't get caught in the guides, which has less impact on casting. Second, when changing lures or taking a break, we often hook the lure onto the rod's hook keeper or the reel. In this case, the line near the top guide will fold, and since PE lines are relatively stiff, this fold could damage the line. Next, we'll focus on how to determine the leader length based on different usage scenarios. Obstacle or structure areas. Adjust the leader length based on where the obstacle or structure is likely to cause friction. Ensure the leader length is longer than the point of friction. For instance, if there are underwater rocks 60 to 70 centimeters deep, you should at least leave a meter of leader line. To determine the friction point, feel for any rubbing on the line while fishing. Once you notice where the line is being abraded, that's the spot. If the main PE line is getting worn, immediately replace and lengthen the leader line. Otherwise, you risk losing your tackle or breaking the line. Long-distance casting. The more guides the leader knot passes through during casting, the more it affects the casting distance. The leader knot should ideally be just outside the top guide. For example, when casting, if you leave 80 centimeters of line outside, the leader length should be slightly shorter than that, so the leader knot sits right outside the top guide. Special conditions. For fish that are timid or in heavily pressured fishing areas, you can use a longer leader to increase concealment. For fish with sharp teeth that can easily cut the line, like pompano or mackerel, you can increase the leader size if there's no risk of snagging. This will improve bite resistance. However, because the knot for a larger leader will be bigger, it will greatly affect casting, so keep it as short as possible to avoid passing through the top guide. Finally, let's talk about selecting the appropriate leader line. use a leader line that is twice the strength of your PE line. For instance, if you're using a number 1 PE line, a number 2 fluorocarbon leader will suffice. If you're dealing with fish that cut lines easily or in areas with many obstacles, you can slightly increase the leader size, but it's recommended not to exceed 2.5 times the PE line strength. The leader line has been tied. In this session, we're going to talk about how to tie bait. Before tying, let me first share my own experience. Back when I was young and inexperienced, a kind fishing buddy taught me a way to tie bait. The first time I caught a big fish, it looked like it was about 20 or 30 pounds. I was extremely excited, but in the end, the line didn't break. The knot came loose and the fish got away. After that, I didn't trust anything else he taught me to prevent you from remembering this forever. Today, I'm going to introduce 2 ways to tie bait. One is a simple and convenient quick tie method. The other is a strong method suitable for catching big fish. First, I'm going to remove the hook for demonstration purposes. When you practice, you can also remove the hook. That way, it's safer to practice. We'll start with the leader line. Thread the leader line through the bait ring. Once it's through, hold the end of the line in one hand and the main line in the other. Place the end of the line between your thumb and index finger, then wrap it 4 or 5 times around the 2 lines. We can also skillfully spin the hook so it wraps around the line on its own. After wrapping it 4 or 5 times, pinch the end of the line between your thumb and index finger. Test it out like this. After wrapping it 4 or 5 times, use your thumb and index finger to hold the end of the line. Pull it through the tube, you see, and tighten the knot before tightening the end of the line. It's best to moisten it with some saliva. That way the line won't damage the main line. I won't need to demonstrate all of this at the same time. Here, tighten the knot. Okay, after tightening the knot, we pull the main line and let the knot slide down to the bait's position. Once it's in place, tighten it one more time. Then trim off the excess line. Cut the excess line. There you go. A beautiful knot is completed. Now let's talk about the second method. First, thread the leader line through the leader ring. Then pull it back through the ring again. After pulling it back, you'll notice there are 2 strands of line inside the ring. On the left is the loop, and on the right is the end of the line and the main line. At this point, make sure to hold the end of the line between your thumb and index finger, and loop the ring around your middle finger of the hand holding it. Now we have 4 strands of line. Wrap the end of the line 4 times around the remaining 3 strands. Wrap it tightly. Then thread the end of the line through the gap between the middle finger and tighten the knot. We need to moisten the knot with some saliva. As you tighten it, the main line and strands will gradually tighten as well. Once it's tightened, cut off the excess line. Now the strong double strand knot is complete. This method allows both strands to bear the load, so the pull strength is stronger. Lastly, let me say, whether it's tying a jig head, a figure 8 loop, or a snap, the methods are the same. Additionally, fishing hooks are very sharp, so be careful when tying bait to avoid injury. How to tie the fishing knot. Is there a simple and sturdy way to tie it? Let's get straight to the point. First, let's understand the purpose of tying the fishing knot. When a snakehead fish bites the lure, it often swallows it very deeply. At this point, the sharp teeth of the snakehead can directly bite into the main line. If you don't tie the fishing knot, the main line is likely to be bitten off. So, the purpose of tying the fishing knot is to make the part of the main line that the snakehead can bite thicker to prevent the fish from escaping. Now let's get into the tutorial. First, take 60 centimeters of line, roughly 3 times the length of your arm, 1, 2, 3. Then fold the main line in half. Use your left hand to hold the folded end of the line while keeping the main line steady. Insert the index finger of your right hand into the loop, then continuously twist the 2 lines together to form a braid. When you've twisted about 10 times, stretch it out to make the braid tighter. Like this, do it 18 times to make 18 braids. The direction of twisting doesn't matter. Just do whatever feels comfortable. Okay, now the 2 lines are tightly twisted into a braid, and you should feel a slight pressure with your index finger. Now bring the 2 ends of the line together. Use your left hand to hold all the ends. Then adjust the braid. The braid will naturally twist into a tight spiral. If it doesn't twist well, you can help it by hand. Just twist it a bit. Look, a very tight and neat braid has been made. Next, we need to tie a knot here to secure the ends of the line. The knot should be tied approximately 18 centimeters from the end, about the length of your palm. Okay, tie it here. We will tie a figure 8 knot here because the figure 8 knot has stronger pulling force and is more sturdy. All right, take the position where you want to tie the knot. Wrap the end of the line around the main line from front to back, like this. Wrap it around, then wrap it back. After wrapping, insert the end of the line through the loop from front to back. Okay, this forms a figure 8 structure. In this structure, the tension on both ends of the line is more evenly distributed. Now we are ready to tighten. Still holding the position with your left hand, grip the end of the line with your little finger and ring finger. Then tighten it. After tightening the knot, cut off the excess ends of the line. Be careful not to cut the main line when cutting off the ends. If you cut the main line, all the work will be in vain. Cut off the ends. All right, after cutting off the ends, use a lighter to slightly burn the ends of the line. This will make the ends less likely to come undone. All right, now the Lei Chang knot is done. After tying the knot, let's talk about how to use it. This is the Lei Ting lure. Thread the end of the Lei Chang knot through the front loop of the Lei Ting. After threading it through, untwist the braid at the head of the Lei Chang knot. To form a loop, okay? Form a loop like this, and pass the loop through the body of the lure. After passing it through, tighten the braid. This forms a slip knot. Okay, now the lure is securely attached. When you want to remove the lure, simply loosen the slip knot at the Lei Chang knot. By learning this technique, not only will the fish not escape, even if the hook gets caught on an obstacle and the hook is bent, the line will not break. Finally, let's talk about how long the Lei Chang knot can last before it needs to be replaced. Unless you notice that the single strand main line near the Lei Chang knot is worn or frayed. At that point, you need to cut off the worn part and retie the knot. Otherwise, there is no need to replace it. Tying it once can last a long time. There are many types of hard lures for roadside fishing. Many new anglers don't recognize them. This video will introduce 8 powerful hard lures to help you fill in the gaps in your knowledge. First, the minnow. The lure with a tongue on its head and a slender body is called a minnow. It mainly mimics an injured fish. It's very effective when the target fish are cautious. The tongue on the head is actually a diving plate. When you reel in the line, it helps the lure dive down. Note that minnows come in 3 types. The floating type dives shallow when you reel in. When you stop reeling, it floats up. It is used for fishing surface-level fish. The suspending minnow can stay at a fixed depth based on its specifications. It is used to search for fish at a certain depth. The sinking minnow naturally sinks. It covers the entire water column. Second, the sinking pencil. It's used to fish in troughs. Because its weight is concentrated at the rear, it has low wind resistance, so it is suitable for long casts. This lure mimics small prey or fleeing fish to attract target fish. The drawback is that it's difficult to maintain it at a fixed depth. Third, the VIB. This type has hooks on the back and a thin body with a thick belly. It creates high-frequency vibrations in the water. All VIBs are designed to sink. They can cover the entire water column. They are generally heavy with low wind resistance, making them suitable for long casts. They create a lot of movement but swim slowly, making them easy to detect by target fish, especially suitable for night fishing, effective during winter and when fish are less active. VIB is also a versatile and general-purpose lure. However, there are things to be cautious about when using it. VIBs often come with 2 sets of treble hooks, and the large wobbling motion increases the chance of snagging the bottom. Fourth, the popper. This type has a big concave mouth. It floats on the surface. It belongs to the surface water class. When pulled, it creates splashes on the surface, mimicking small fish jumping or fleeing in panic. Very effective for aggressive fish. Fifth, the crankbait. This lure also has a tongue on the head, but it has a rounder and shorter body. It creates a wide swimming motion underwater, like a fish swaying its tail from side to side. Hence, it's also known as the rocking chubby. Its flamboyant swimming motion can be seen as teasing the fish, forcing the target fish to strike. It is suitable for streams and when fish are highly active, and for fish species with strong territorial behavior. 2 points to note when using crankbait. Avoid using rods with fast action or high-speed reels, as they create a lot of vibration and resistance. Crankbaits are designed for fixed depths, so choose accordingly. Sixth, the walking dog. This lure has a small head without a tongue. It swims in a zigzag pattern. When you use a twitching retrieve, it realistically mimics fleeing bait fish. You can watch the entire process of the fish chasing and striking. It is very thrilling, especially in the morning and evening when fish are active. Highly exciting, but it takes a lot of practice to create a beautiful rhythmic motion. Seventh, the surface tractor. This lure has a rotating propeller at the tail. When pulled, the propeller spins, splashing water, like a fishtail slapping the water. It creates a loud, gurgling sound, with a wide impact range, suitable for fast fishing over large areas, especially effective for aggressive mid to upper level fish species. Use the tractor in calm water with no obstacles. 8. The swim bait. It looks like a fish cut into several segments. Used only when targeting large fish. Be cautious when using it in resource-scarce areas, as the lure may be bigger than the fish you're targeting. If you know where the fish are but still can't catch them, then you need to pay attention. This video will show you 3 extremely effective baiting tips to help you catch fish easily. Let's jump straight into the main points. First is the cloud retrieve technique. Don't underestimate the cloud retrieve. It's the foundation of bait fishing. Many anglers don't execute it properly. The cloud retrieve is suitable for fast searches in large waters and can help you find the exact depth where the fish are. Fish suitable for cloud retrieve include silver carp and bass catfish and perch. Suitable baits for the cloud retrieve are jig heads with soft baits or metal jigs like the VIP spoon. Water layers are generally divided into the upper, middle, and lower layers. How can we find the right layer to search? Here's a small trick. If you want to search the middle layer, after casting, wait for 1 second after the bait hits the water. Then, the bait will stop when it reaches the bottom. This is the time it takes for the bait to hit the bottom. For example, if it takes 8 seconds, wait for 4 seconds. That's how you search the middle water layer. Many beginners might not feel the bait hit the bottom. You can observe the line, and when it stops going out, that's when it hits the bottom. If you want to search the upper layer, simply retrieve the line quickly from the middle layer. If you want to search the bottom layer, lower the rod and slow down the retrieval speed. If the bait gets snagged on the bottom, then it's best to stop searching the bottom layer. During cloud retrieve, you can add some pauses. This increases the chances of the fish biting the hook. For example, retrieve for 3 seconds, then pause for 1 second. This gives the fish more time to catch the bait while chasing it. Second is the bottom hopping technique. This is a delicate bait fishing technique. The bait jumps up and down on the bottom. It's suitable for areas with bottom structures. Use jig heads with soft baits. This technique is great for catching grouper and catfish. After casting, tighten the line. Wait for the jig head to hit the bottom, then raise the rod tip to 60 degrees. Once the bait hits the bottom, tighten the line. Use your wrist to raise the rod to 80 degrees. The height of the hop depends on the water depth. Shallow water, smaller hops. Deep water, larger hops. Then prepare for the next hop. Lower the rod tip back to 60 degrees and tighten the line. Then raise and lower the rod, retrieving the line. Repeat these actions. To help beginners feel when the jig head hits the bottom, you can tighten the line after the bait hits the water, then release the spool and let the bait sink naturally. At this point, gently hold the line with your hand. You will clearly feel the bait hit the bottom. Third is the jerk stop technique. This technique makes the bait mimic a small fish frantically escaping in fear. It's very attractive to silver carp and bass, suitable for metal jigs and minnow baits. After casting, tighten the line. Lower the rod tip and jerk the rod with your wrist, then pause for 1 second. Then return the rod to its original position. At the same time, reel in and tighten the line. Repeat these actions. Many beginners learning this technique often struggle to coordinate both hands. Now I'll show you a simple method. You can even practice at home with half a rod. Hold the reel hand still, and move the rod hand like the drive rod of a steam train. When the reel moves upwards, raise your forearm and lift your wrist. When the reel moves down, the arm brings the wrist down. This creates a smooth and coordinated jerk stop action. Once you're familiar with it, you can start practicing coordinating both hands. Now that you've learned these 3 baiting techniques, are you still worried about not catching fish? Many new lure fishing players often say, 10 times fishing, 9 times empty-handed. In fact, the main reason is that they don't know where the fish are. After watching this video, you'll quickly find fishing spots with fish, greatly increasing your chances of catching fish. I've summarized 6 must-search fishing spots. The first one is under the bridge. When building a bridge, foundations are required. The water here is usually quite deep. There are also slow-moving water areas under the bridge. The rocky structures attract fish species like mandarin fish. Bass and catfish love staying here. Some timid, light-sensitive fish like bream also like to hide in the bridge's shadow during the day. For mandarin, use jigs with baits. Cast the bait next to the bridge piles. Continuously make movements of lifting the bait from the bottom. For bream and bass, use metal jigs or spoons and retrieve steadily across the bridge. The second spot is the transition between deep and shallow water. When you see a clear gradient from shallow to deep water, that's the deep-shallow boundary. Here, the water usually has a depth drop. Small fish like to swim near the shallow waters. Big fish wait in the deep waters, ready to ambush prey. For example, mandarin fish and bream. For mandarin fish, use jig heads with round baits. Make movements lifting the bait from the bottom. For bream, cast metal jigs past the fishing spot and retrieve steadily. The third spot is in waterweed areas. If you see thick waterweed covering the surface, but with many small round holes, pay attention. There's a high chance that black snakehead fish are present. Because their gills have evolved, they can't get enough oxygen underwater. So they bite holes in the waterweed to breathe air. They also bask in the sun and hunt near these holes. They're very easy to spot. At this time, you should use a frog lure, casting over the hole and slowly retrieving. When the lure reaches the hole, lightly lift the rod tip. Make the frog lure shake slightly. Patiently wait for the black snakehead to bite. The fourth spot is the transition from fast to slow currents. In fast-flowing water areas, observe carefully. There will be areas with slower currents. This happens because there are underwater obstacles or the river widens suddenly, or there's a branch of the river creating backflow, slowing the water flow, creating a calm area. Mandarin fish, bream, and bass will ambush tired prey here. For mandarin fish, use jig heads with round baits, lifting them from the bottom. For bream and bass, use VIP or minnow lures, casting into the fast current and retrieving steadily into the slower water. The fifth spot is in reed and branch areas. These areas have many structures and are very shallow. The temperature rises quickly. There are many bait fish, black snakehead fish, California bass, and catfish love hunting here. You can use a Texas rig here. That is a curved hook with a soft bait. Pair it with bullet weights and stoppers to avoid snagging in the reeds and branches. Cast the bait under the reeds and branches and retrieve steadily. The sixth spot is the inlets and outlets of reservoirs or dams. There is a lot of food for small fish here, and plenty of oxygen. Where there are small fish, big fish will come to hunt. Here, mandarin fish, catfish, bream, and bass frequently appear. For mandarin fish and catfish, use jig heads with soft baits, lifting them from the bottom. For bream and bass, use metal jigs and retrieve steadily. Remember these 6 spots, and you'll catch fish faster than your friends. Many new anglers can't catch fish, and a big reason is due to the weather. The weather we think is good, and the weather that is good for fishing are two completely different concepts. After watching this video, you'll realize that you've missed many ideal fishing days. First, air temperature directly affects water temperature. Water temperature, in turn, determines whether fish are willing to feed or not. Most predatory fish species, when the temperature is around 25 degrees Celsius, have a strong desire to feed, which means they are more likely to bite. For example, Chinese perch, mandarin fish, and largemouth bass. If the temperature is above 25 degrees Celsius and suddenly drops by 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, the catch rate will be very high on that day. At this time, the air temperature drops, but the water temperature hasn't yet, so the fish will feed aggressively to store energy to fight the cold, making it a great time for us to go lure fishing. Second, light rain. Rainy weather increases the oxygen content in the water, making the fish more active. When it's lightly raining or right after the rain stops, the catch rate is very high. But be careful. You shouldn't fish during thunderstorms because our fishing rods are usually made of carbon fiber, and both wet fishing lines and carbon fiber rods are conductive. Third, atmospheric pressure. Typically, fishing is best when the pressure is above 1,000 hectopascals. Here's a key point. When planning a fishing trip, don't just look at the pressure for a single day. Instead, observe the pressure trends over the next 3 days. For example, if the pressure is above 1,000 hectopascals and continues to rise for 2 days, the following 2 days will be great for fishing. There are many apps that can show future atmospheric pressure, such as Angler and Fishing Weather Forecast. Fourth, gentle wind. Wind also increases the oxygen content in the water. Typically, with a wind speed of 2 to 3, fish are easier to catch. If there's no wind, or the wind is too strong, the catch rate will decrease significantly. Even if only one of these four factors is present, it's still worth trying to fish. If all four are met, you should definitely take a day off to go fishing, because who wouldn't want to experience the thrill of landing a big fish? If there are sharp-snout mandarin fish, bass, or catfish around you, pay attention. Follow my method and you'll quickly catch the first big fish of your life. Let's get straight to the point without further ado. Use a jig head hook with a swivel. There are two types of jig head hooks, 7 grams and 10 grams. First, use the 7-gram hook to search the nearby waters so you won't miss any fish over half a kilo. If you can't catch anything in the nearby waters, switch to the 10-gram hook to expand your search range. At this point, fish weighing from 1 to 20 kilos will be within your range. Regarding soft lures, prepare two types, T-tail and curly tail. The lure length should be around 6 centimeters for the 7-gram jig head hook and around 7 centimeters for the 10-gram jig head hook. For colors, if you want versatility, choose white or green. For cloudy days or murky water, go for pink or fluorescent yellow. If the water is deep or the fish aren't biting, choose darker colors. When should you use T-tail and when should you use curly tail? T-tails are suitable for fast searches in clear water with plenty of sunlight, as their shape closely resembles small bait fish. Even in high underwater visibility, large fish will have difficulty distinguishing between real and fake. Curly tails are more effective in low visibility conditions, such as on cloudy days, in murky water, or at night, because they create larger water disturbances, making it easier for big fish to find them. How to rig the lure. First, measure the lure against the hook. The position just below the hook is where the hook point should come out. Remember this, both T-tails and curly tails have a correct side. The tails should point downward and the hook should be inserted from the top. If rigged incorrectly, the T-tail will swim awkwardly and the curly tail could get caught on the hook. When rigging, insert the hook through the center of the head until it reaches the marked position, then push the lure's head all the way to the base of the jig head. Check two key points. 1. The hook point should not extend beyond the lure, and 2. The soft lure should be straight. If it's bent or twisted, it will affect the lure's movement and reduce its effectiveness in attracting fish. Now for an important tip. I'll share a small trick when using T-tails. Cut a few small slits under the belly of the lure. This will create more turbulence, making the tail move more naturally and making the lure much more realistic, greatly enhancing its ability to attract fish. Next, let's talk about the technique for retrieving the lure. You only need to reel in at a steady pace. Since the fish we're targeting live at different depths, we'll begin by searching 3 depths: surface, mid-water, and bottom. If you want the lure to swim at a fixed depth, for example, just below the surface, you can start reeling immediately after the lure hits the water. When the lure pops out of the water, gradually reduce the retrieval speed until the lure stays below the surface. This is the steady retrieval speed you're aiming for. To search the mid-water, after the lure hits the water, tighten the line and count to 5 seconds until you feel the lure hit the bottom. For example, in 8 seconds. Next time, after the lure hits the water, start reeling after 4 seconds to search the mid-water level. While searching, remember to cover each depth layer separately. If you feel like you've hit something or the line is being pulled, immediately set the hook. Congratulations, your first big fish has arrived. When you catch it, be sure to come back and tell me. Many friends are very excited about fishing snakehead using a bait casting reel. Today's video will guide you on how to catch your first snakehead fish. First, let's talk about the gear. Fishing with a bait casting reel doesn't require top-notch equipment, just the right specifications. The bait casting rod should be between 2.13 to 2.29 meters long. Choose a stiffness rating of XH or XXH. For the action, opt for an extra fast type. Your budget should be around $100. The reel should be durable and strong. A budget of around $200 should be sufficient. For the line, choose a size between 3 and 6. Select frog lures weighing from 14 to 20 grams. Next is the gear adjustment. Here's the key point. Normally, the spool of the reel is very smooth. During strong casts, the line can slip in the spool. In that case, before spooling the line, you can wrap a few rounds of fabric tape around the spool to increase friction. Some reels have a design to hold the line securely, which is very convenient. Additionally, lock the drag of the reel tightly. Finally, don't forget to tie the reel knot correctly to avoid losing the fish due to a broken line. Part 2 is about the ideal weather conditions for bait casting. When the temperature is between 20 to 28 degrees, snakehead fish are very active in hunting. Therefore, during spring and fall at noon, or early morning and late afternoon in summer, your chances of catching fish are very high. Part 3 is choosing the fishing spot. Prioritize areas with aquatic grasses, reeds, or floating vegetation. You can use satellite maps to find river sections with aquatic grass nearby. Then visit the location to check it out. Part 4 is the searching process. When you arrive at the fishing spot, first observe if there are any round holes in the aquatic grass. That's where snakeheads come up to breathe. If you see one, cast your frog lure over the grass hole. Then slowly reel it back in. If there's no hole, start searching along the shore. Then systematically search each area. While searching, pay attention to whether the frog lure creates any small ripples. If it does, it could be a snakehead fish. Focus on searching in that area. Part 5 is the lure shaking technique. After casting, reel in at a steady pace. When the frog lure passes over a grass hole or ripple, stop. Shake the rod left and right to create a wiggling action for the lure, or nod the rod up and down to create a head-bobbing motion for the lure. Try to keep the frog lure lingering longer over the grass hole or ripple. Continue reeling, stop, and shake the lure, patiently waiting for the snakehead to bite. Part 6 is the hook setting technique. The hook setting action consists of 2 parts, loading power and making a strong pull. Typically, you can see the snakehead attacking the frog lure. When the fish bites, don't rush to set the hook. When you see the frog lure disappear, begin loading power. Count to 2 seconds in your head while pushing the rod forward and reeling in. This helps create a larger hook setting angle. Then, firmly grip the rod and reel and pull back hard. When the fish is hooked, keep the rod bent at all times. Quickly reel the fish towards you. Congratulations, you've caught your first snakehead fish. Finally, the hook removal process. Frog lures are often swallowed deep by snakeheads. You will need a fish mouth opener to hold the fish's mouth open. Then use pliers to remove the hook. Catching a meter-long fish is a dream come true for many fishing enthusiasts. In the upcoming videos, I will guide you through the steps on how to catch large fish. This series will cover essential aspects like gear combinations, long-distance casting techniques, and operational guides. In this first video, we'll begin by discussing gear combinations. Large fish are very cautious when they hunt. During the day, they generally stay in deep waters, about 50 meters offshore. This means that choosing the right gear requires equipment capable of long-distance casting. First, let's talk about the fishing rod. For beginners, it's best to select a rod with M or MH stiffness. The ideal length is between 2.2 meters and 2.5 meters. A medium or fast action rod is recommended. This setup helps achieve a greater casting distance. Additionally, once a fish is hooked, it's less likely to escape. Next, let's look at the reel. For spinning reels, I recommend using a C3000 or 2500 model with a shallow spool. The spool lip should have a slight slope to reduce resistance, allowing for longer casts. If you prefer bait casting reels, choose one designed specifically for distance casting. For instance, the Spider Elite, or models like the Zilong 151419 or Antares. These reels have adjustable braking power, making them more suitable for long-distance casting. Now let's discuss the fishing line. The type of line you choose significantly impacts casting distance. A thinner line offers smoother casting and increases casting distance. As an example, let's consider imported lines. For spinning reels, use PE line 0.8, and for bait casting reels, use PE line 1.2. The line length should ideally be 150 meters. Brands like 131 or Shimano with 12 strands are excellent options. Finally, we'll look at the lure. Choose a lure with minimal wind resistance and weight distributed towards the rear. This makes it easier to cast far. Examples of suitable lures include the iron plate or the Guife pencil, which weighs around 18 grams. With all the gear ready, you'll have what you need for long-distance casting. In the next video, I'll teach you the specific techniques for long casting. By the end of the series, you'll be able to cast up to 80 meters.